So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Peter Sanderson, and I've been doing a few interviews with different authors and different people who can influence our lives in a positive way. And today I have an incredible guest. I'm honored to be joined by Erin Lucero, who is the author of a brand new book called AYNI, How to Find Love, Balance and Harmony in Your Life. And I had the honor of writing the foreword for this book, and I really took it upon myself to become part of the book. And so for a month in my life, I spent some quality time with Erin's wisdom and words and the wisdom of the earth, and I tried to find some AYNI in my life, and it was, well, how can I put it? It was life-changing. And so I wanted to speak to Erin in more detail, so I asked her if she'd mind doing an interview, and here she is. So Erin Lucero, welcome to the studio, and thanks for doing this interview.
Thanks, Peter. It's so nice to be here, and I'm just so honored that you took that time with this book. It was an incredible opportunity for me to come into a fuller version of myself and express things that had been probably brewing and germinating for maybe my whole life. I spent most of my life as an architect, designing buildings and doing all sorts of practical, pragmatic things, but always had this really deep passion for making the world a better place and making this earth a little bit better, because it needs some help. And Spirit brought me to this, to these teachings and this wisdom, and really wanted me to share it with everyone, with all of us that are just living our lives day to day, surviving, dreaming for more. And it's a book that just kind of flowed out of me, and it's been a beautiful process of taking my love for writing and putting it into a book. So thanks for having me here.
Wow, well, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure and an honor and a gift to everyone out there who's watching. So hopefully after this interview, there'll be a lot of people rushing out to buy AYNI and trying to find AYNI and bring it into their lives. So just to get us started, because perhaps AYNI is a word that not everybody knows what it means, would you mind just explaining to all the people watching exactly what AYNI is?
Absolutely. And it's funny, I was just talking to my family yesterday, and they're like, how do you pronounce your book again? Is it AYNI? Uni? I'm like, maybe you should have put in a little phonetic spelling in the forward. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should have. But, AYNI is a Quechua word. It's a word from Peru, from the people of the Andes, the Inca, and even before the Inca. And it's a word that I learned when I was doing my shamanic training through that lineage. It means basically today for you, tomorrow for me. It's this whole idea of living life based on giving instead of receiving. And there's this understanding that it works because if everything is connected, if we're all connected, if all of humanity and all the plants and the animals and the earth and everything, we're all connected, then when you give, you get back tenfold. Whereas if you take, you're just diminishing kind of the source and supply of everything. So this was this idea that I learned about from Peru, but as I really dove into it and really started to let it sink into my being, this is a concept that you will find across all cultures, all religions. I mean, even you can look at like earth-based cultures, it's definitely there. But even if you look at other Western religions, if you look at the teachings of Christianity, I found it in the teachings of yoga. This is a universal concept that is, to me, at the key of how we can live a life that's a little bit more, in, like my book says, balance and harmony.
Wow. Well, that is a word that carries a lot of power, I would say. And it's definitely something that the earth could do with right now. So thank you for sharing that. And this concept of giving instead of constantly taking is perhaps alien to a lot of people on Earth, and it isn't because people are bad people or naughty souls or whatever you want to call it. I really feel it's because of the way a lot of us have been conditioned and the way we've been brought up. Um, how would you speak to someone who you feel like has, we all have the potential to find irony, right? But has a need to find this irony, because I think deep down, if we we'll take off all the masks and unstrip all the negative conditioning that we've been installed with. I think everyone wants to find irony, don't they?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I did, and I guess I am that we feel in our heart, and we're like, well, we want to do this, but we just feel we can't. We can't. There's so much, we're told that there's not enough, that we need to fight over the scraps. We're told that we live in this place of fear and scarcity. I mean, you turn on the news, you talk to friends and they tell you like, oh, but we can't do anything. We can't do anything. It's all too big. The world's, it's all beyond us, and we feel powerless, and that the best thing we can do is to kind of hoard, to take care of our own family, to take care of what we need. And it's normal to feel that way, because we have been taught that there is no one but us that's going to take care of us. And so we have to do that. So to give trust to the universe, or to even acknowledge that there is a universe out there that will take care of you, is a really big leap of faith. And I can appreciate that that's not something everyone's ready to step into. And that's why I wrote the book, because it was my journey to finding that leap of faith, to finding that trust in the universe, and to finding that we actually are all interconnected. It was my journey through those fears, and through feeling insecure in who I am and that I needed to take. It was, living a whole life where it was all very transactional, and, I give something, but of course I expect something in return. And that's just it's the whole way. It's Western society. It's how we've been living for, I don't know, a couple of thousand years. So it is hard.
Yeah. No, I understand. Do you want to? I mean, I mean this in a positive way. Then I say it. I love your vulnerability, in terms of the fact that you were open to being vulnerable and to accept that there was work that needed to be done. And I think a lot of people out there, they think the word vulnerable is a weakness, or they think being vulnerable is a weakness, and it can be a weakness. But I really feel that it gives us a bigger platform to grow. Um, yeah, I wanted to ask you, because you are an incredibly open person. I've got to know you over the last few years, um, and I hope you don't mind me asking. But you hit your lowest point, didn't you, when you lost your mum? And in some ways, we look at death as being a negative. And of course, when someone leaves the planet, it is not an easy thing to deal with. But at the same time, your mum, or this moment in your life, gave you the opportunity to go deeper, didn't it? And to find another level of Erin Lucero.
Yeah, it did. And you lose someone who, my mother was like just this stellar person of accomplishments. She had a list. She actually had a mountain in Antarctica named after her.
Wow.
There is a mountain named after her for her work.
You never told me that. That's impressive.
And she was so impressive, so impressive. And that was, how I looked at the world, was accomplishments. This is what makes our life, the accomplishments that we achieve. But at the end, when cancer took her down to, 80 pounds, and she was so frail and so afraid, because her whole life was wrapped up in this material world, and she died. And then what? And she had and then it's like, well, what is the point of all of those accomplishments? Are they making the world a better place? And so I started looking at my own life. And I had plenty of accomplishments. I was making good money, da 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 da, managing teams, building buildings. But did any of it really count? Like, was any of it really in alignment with my soul's purpose of wanting to spread? This is my soul's purpose, wanting to spread love and light for the world. Was it doing that? And I was like, no, it's not. It's not. And how can I keep living my life when I know that it's finite, that in a way that was counter to what my compass was telling me? And so it's that those crises that we have are just like, no, we're not in alignment with ourselves. We're like our own hypocrite. And you have to you got to face it. And it's hard.
Yeah.
I remember being in our class and I was like crying and I'm like, I can't face the fear of death. This was too much. And the Jaguar medicine was like here to help. And that's why I wrote about shamanism, because the medicine that is there, the love that is there in our earth spirit. And that's where I feel like most of that medicine comes from our earth spirit and our stars and our skies and all of nature. It helps us through those dark moments.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for talking about that openly. And it is funny, isn't it, how our generation and perhaps a lot of the generations in the last few centuries have become, and certainly in the last 100 years, have become so materialistic and so obsessed with physical achievements that we've almost lost sight of our souls. Yeah. I've had the same battle with my beautiful family and my friends when I kind of started to move into shamanism, where I started to ask some big questions, because the funny thing is I ticked off everything on my original bucket list and realized that it was just a physical bucket list, and actually on a soul level, the bucket list is very different and much shorter as well. But if you don't start to nurture it and love it and listen to it, I think that was what I was doing. And it sounds like maybe you'd fallen into the same trap until your mum brought that gift to you of making you realize that having a mountain named after you or whatever it might be is wonderful in the physical world, but when you're knocking on the door of heaven or spirit or wherever we might go when we pass, it doesn't really count for much, right?
Nope. I mean, I don't think it does. I think it counts, like, and this is, it has been, we've been told and conditioned, like we said earlier, like, to not get to know ourselves. We've been told that, like, we don't really have that much to offer as humans, which is a shame. Like, we're kind of like told that we're like little robots. We only have, we're little laborers, that we're just supposed to go do things and do as we're told, and really not spend too much time thinking about what our heart's desire is. And I think that that's shifting, because I think we're all kind of fed up with that concept.
Well, I remember standing in the middle. I used to work in sport, and I remember standing in the middle of a sports stadium once upon a time. And I was there. It was a Champions League football match, what you would call a soccer match, and the stadium started talking to me. And this is a guy working in the corporate world who's kind of like really not thinking about the bigger picture and God or spirit. And the stadium started talking to me, and basically it just said, I'm lonely, and I was like, what is happening? Why is the stadium talking to me? And what I didn't realize at that point, but I've since realized, is that it was me, talking to myself. It was basically, I was lonely and I was empty, And this stadium needed to be filled. It loved being filled with people for big matches, and like when, because I'd arrive at the stadium 3 or 4 days before the match. But actually, it was a metaphor for me, and it was basically spirit saying, "Listen, dude, you've got to start actually listening to your life and giving yourself some love." And when I read the kind of the first chapter in your book, it was really interesting that the first thing you talked about was learning to love yourself. And do you want to talk about that kind of process? And I think it was called falling in love with me.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's been a slow process. I wish that one was something that you could just like jump to the end. But it seems like we spent the first 20 years of our lives, well, maybe some people haven't, but we have a lot of people telling us all the things that are wrong with us. And so we create a mask, we create whatever we need to do to survive in this society. And yeah, I mean, for me to find my soul's path, if any of us wants to find our soul's path, if any of us wants to like really step into a full world, you got to start with yourself. You start with yourself, you end with, I mean, actually it's pretty much entirely about us. It's not about anyone else, it's about us. And so finding unconditional love and self-acceptance for our bodies, for our skills. I mean, I talked a lot. For me, it was I was very smart growing up, so I didn't have too much problem with that. But I know a lot of people have struggled in school, so they feel dumb. They feel that they can't achieve, so then they look for where they can. For me, it was I felt really awkward in my body, and so I found that love when I started running and feeling that my body was a powerful tool. It was a vessel. It wasn't something to be shamed. And it's working through all our feelings that we have of shame of ourselves, and unpacking them and realizing that they're just stories. I mean, that's what most of the book is to uncover these stories that we've told ourselves, and that they are stories, and any story can be rewritten. And that's the difference between a story and a truth, is that it's just a story. And so as I fell in love with my body through running and through movement, even though I wasn't gonna go be in that stadium and win any of those challenges, it didn't matter, because it was just me falling in love with myself as I was. And
Wow.
yeah, then the whole world starts to open up.
Yeah. Isn't that beautiful? Well, you know what? Let's give you a big hug. I, one of the things that I do, and one of the practices that I do in my process, because I had the same problem. As a child, I guess if you're quite sensitive, it's easy to feel like you're not loved. If maybe you need more love, or at least you need to hear the right things. But a little practice that I've started doing now is going back to when I remember a moment, or something reminds me of a time when I got hit over the head by not physically, but by a hammer blow of someone, just a verbal volley at me. I just go to that day and that time, and I give myself a hug, and I'm like, and it's amazing the release that happens when you like, it's like, it's almost as if, and I guess you learn this in the shamanic world, like it's almost as if time doesn't exist, and that you can go back to any moment in your life whenever you want and just give little Erin or little Peter or whoever it is a hug. And in that moment, your that particular trauma is healed.
Yeah.
But yeah, just going back to you. So the next step of your journey was to sign up for a shamanic course, wasn't it, with the Four Winds? And tell us how that process unfolded.
Well, it was so I was going through all of this crises and just trying to figure everything out. I was doing a lot of yoga meditations, which were really helpful for me to observe my feelings, to kind of step back, to be an independent observer of what's going on, so I could at least become aware of the fact that this was spiraling, like that I needed to do something, and just kind of asking the universe, like, help me. And I think that when we do get into that vulnerable place and just ask for help will come. And I had been to a shamanic healing session when I was on the vacation at the beach. I'm like, oh, this will be fun. And I didn't know if it was, I didn't know. We just thought it'd be fun. And maybe that's how people find those things. Like, oh, this will be cool. Like maybe they'll find my spirit animal or whatever. But she had written down something like, you are going to be a light worker one day. And I'm like, okay. So I just kept that piece of paper and all the things, the messages, and I was just fumbling around. And then I was like, oh, that piece of paper. And I went and I did some master classes, that free master classes by Alberto that had been on that piece of paper. And I started, I mean, it was just like an awakening. I had very strange meditations that I'd never had before. I went, actually, I want to tell you this story because this is like a big one. It's not even in my book. So I did a meditation with Alberto where we went back into past lives, 3 different past lives. And the first one I went to was, I was a conquistador, and I was killing people. I was killing the native peoples of America. And I hated it, of course. I mean, who wants to be killing people? I don't know, maybe some do, but like, I couldn't stop, because this, if I didn't, then I would be killed or court-martialed or whatever, something bad would happen to me. I had to follow the orders. And then I went to the next life that was even further back. And I was in India in a harem, and I was this woman who was like kept by the king or whatever, concubine. So I had a very nice life, but I had no choice. I had no freedom. And I was like, wow, these are awful. Like these are this illusion of like a happy life. And I met with my Swami at this time, because I was just like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, help me, and I shared her these stories, and she said, we all have a choice. That is the message. We have a choice. We just have to accept the consequences of that choice. And that is when I decided to sign up for the shamanic training.
Wow. Maybe that story should have gone in the book.
I didn't want to scare anyone, Peter.
Yeah, I know. It's not a great first chapter, is it? I'm a mass murderer to form a life. No, but I tell you, the first thing that came to me when you explained that, and this is, again, because obviously I trained with the Four Winds as well, and ended up being lucky enough to be one of your teachers. But the thing that came to me is, I remember Alberto, and we're talking about Dr. Alberto Vialdo here for anyone who is unaware of who we're talking about. He runs the Four Winds. I remember I used to have dreams about him before I did the course, and this is not uncommon. I know a lot of people who start to watch videos of people who are who are very wise, and Alberto is almost as wise as it comes, I'd say. They often start. It becomes a representative almost of your higher self, so you start dreaming about them. And I remember saying to him, Alberto, I keep dreaming about you and eggs, and you keep giving. I keep seeing this goose laying eggs, and then I give the eggs to you, and he's like, Peter. He says, you might think it's me. I'm not going to do the American accent. You might think it's me, but it's not. He says, every single dream you have is an aspect of yourself. And whether it's the chicken laying the golden eggs, or it's, you know, it's me giving them to Alberto, everyone is a part of me. And when you started talking about that, especially that first dream, I was thinking about what you were saying about you didn't like yourself when you were younger, right? You had love issues with yourself, and I wondered if it was you, you know, you were almost killing an aspect of yourself, as you were, yeah, you were strangling your soul almost, not listening. And but what a gift if we listen to our dreams, hey, and we can actually then respond to them, and start a new life. And that's exactly what you've done, Erin. It's Here you are, the author of AYNI, the book. You know, you're no longer the student, you're the teacher, and you're going to be helping a lot of people. So how does it feel now to kind of to be in that position?
I
And not
always
and
feel
not
very uncomfortable with that kind of thing.
well, well, you know, I think I'd probably be more comfortable as the author of a book called AYNI than being a mass murderer.
That's
You
true.
know?
That is true. No, I feel um what's the right word? Whole,
Hmm.
integrated. I
Hmm.
feel like I am integrating. And we, speaking of dreams, I had a dream a week ago, that was about that I needed to integrate the red and the blue together, which is, those are kind of colors in yoga. A little bit red is sort of the color of the sun, and blue is the color of the moon, and that I needed to integrate those two. And I think that as I'm moving into AYNI, and I talked a lot about it in the book too, that
Hmm.
integration of the masculine and the feminine, the solar and the lunar. I mean, we have spent so much time as a society in this very heavy masculine world.
Yeah.
And I have too, as you know, I'm a woman, but I'm living in this world. And so all of those aspects of me have been smushed and suppressed as I
Hmm.
had to figure out how to navigate in a, you know, male dominated profession, in a, you know, in this world. But as I integrate the two together, and as I did in the book, and as I'm doing in my life, I just feel whole.
Hmm. Oh, I can feel it. Thank you for sharing that energy. And isn't that what we all want? You know, at the end of the day, we all just want to feel complete, whole, including your dog in the background. You know, we just want to feel loved and connected. And I think, you know, you said, like, AYNI is essentially everything is interconnected, whether it's the humans, the species, the planet. You know, we're all woven into one beautiful fabric, right?
Yeah. And that's, I think that, you know, for me, the overarching goal, you know, if I could make a change in the world, it would be to help heal this earth, because we have been so disconnected from it. And so my love and my hope would be that as people read this, as people reconnect with themselves, and then they
Mm.
start seeing that beautiful divinity, that light in other people, and then they start looking at the animals and everything around them, they're like, oh wow, those are, you know, those are good things too. Like, we just start caring. And that would be amazing if we just started caring about each other, and we just stopped fighting over scraps. That would be pretty amazing. I mean, if 100 people read my book, and that changed them to start caring, and then 100 more people saw that in them, and they're like, oh, there is a way to live. I mean, that could change the world.
Yeah, yeah, it really could. You at the beginning of each chapter in the book, Erin's chosen a poem or a little bit of text, a little bit of wisdom, haven't you? And the chapter 18, the circle, I think sums up exactly what you've just said. It's William Blake: to see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wildflower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. I think, you know, And that sums up AYNI as well, doesn't it? Because it's, we talk about, certainly people these days talk about the earth as one thing, and that's the earth, that's the planet, and that's the sun, and that's the moon, and heaven's up there, and hell's underneath. And I'm me, and you're Erin, and you're a body, and I'm a body, but we never seem to get it that just like when you're in the forest, all the plants and the trees are connected, and that everything works for each other. And I always love the role that the mushrooms do. That they, because they basically provide the life, and they interconnect the trees, and they bring the right moisture and the right bacteria, and so everything. And in the forest, it's just accepted that that everything helps each other. It's just nature, like Mother Nature at work. But somehow we've managed to convince ourselves that humans are disconnected with everything. And it's like, your dog is just a dog, or that tree I can see outside there it's a tree, and it's just, we seem to have lost the heart, right?
Mm-hmm. We have. Yeah, we have. And as I found it, and as I tried to share finding that in my book, and I'm sure as you found it too, it's beautiful. It's like, it's so full of joy and love and happiness. We're like, what have we been missing out on? It's amazing. And I mean, we talk about people who are just like an average normal person, just getting by, and they don't feel it, but it's really awesome. It's the best high in the world to just feel that you're a part of something and that you're not alone.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, let's talk a little bit more detail about the shamanic side. And I think what you were alluding to there is beauty, and the beauty of the earth, and how human beings have got this misconception that beauty is, oh, look at that flower, it's really pretty, or oh, she's really pretty, or he's really hot, And what I discovered, certainly as I stepped into the south direction, and you reminded me when I was reading through the book, about that serpent energy, was that beauty is internal, right? And the more you love yourself, the more you feel and see the interconnectedness and the beauty. But tell us about your experience of moving through the south.
Yeah, I think beauty is just a word that has been completely been manipulated into something that is artificial, and not authentic. And I think, as I went through the South, as I went through the serpent and really looked at all of these stories, that is what peeled away, what was not authentic. And as we can begin to ask ourselves who we are really deep down, you can start to differentiate between what is you and what is stuff that has been put on you. And that was sort of my journey through, was just realizing it, and without judgment. I mean, this is so important. This is in the yoga teachings that I've learned, and this is in the shamanic teachings. Judgment does not need to come to the table. We have already been really good at judging ourselves, really, really good at judging ourselves. And if we can take that judgment back and just look at ourselves, like if we were looking at ourselves like our mothers would, I mean, if we had good mothers, or, hopefully, but like looking at ourselves just as like you were saying earlier, like a little child who just like is something, and maybe they need a little bit of healing here, or maybe they need a little bit of love there, but that doesn't make them a bad person. And that was kind of how I went through the South, was to just feel that, like, yeah, I just am where I am, and we are all where we are, and we're just trying to find that love again.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I think what's happened is we've mistaken beauty for glamour, haven't we? And I think that's probably modern marketing at play. But I love the practice on beauty. Just looking down at it now that you put it to the book, and that is that you find three aspects of yourself that you don't like. And yeah, I noticed the first thing you picked was your large thighs, which you obviously in your childhood had, had been a tough thing for you to love about yourself, right? And yet you managed to create that beautiful thing. My thighs are beautiful because they are strong. They carry me up mountains and have taken me on long runs and hikes. And then you explained the whole thing. So that's in one of the first chapters, like really having to find beauty in yourself, not
Yeah.
just in planet Earth.
And in others too, to
Mm.
find beauty in others. That's
Mm.
the people that we don't like. And I think that if we could stop fighting a little bit, just like a little bit, and start finding the good things in the people that we disagree with, and start finding ourselves in those people. At least here in America, we're really in a divisive place with other people. I don't know how it is in France and Europe, but even if like some of us can start finding beauty in ourselves and love ourselves, but if we still just think everyone else is the enemy, we're not going to get anywhere either.
Yeah, and I think that's one of your examples as well, is the war at the moment that's going on between Ukraine and Russia, which is how we're doing in Europe right now. Well, I think that's probably a good example of how just selfish and ego driven we are, in that we're still at a level of consciousness where we think that sending missiles into another country is the answer. And it's tough, but I think a bit like the butterfly effect or AYNI. It takes just a few little ripples of beauty and love and compassion and people like yourself to step forward and to speak about it. And I think there's a lot of people right now in Russia and the Ukraine who are not at all part of this and don't want to be part of this war, and they want nothing more than AYNI and to feel it in their bones and to feel it within the consciousness of their country too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can't do the medicine wheel in a few minutes, but perhaps you could just talk about what, because obviously there's the serpent, which is the south, and then there's a jaguar in the west, which is always an interesting journey, and one which you cannot do without going very deep into your soul. So tell us a little about the jaguar, and also anything that really you think could help people who are watching this interview in the other directions, the north and the east, the hummingbird and the eagle condor.
Yeah. I spent probably the longest chapter or two that I had was in jaguar, and it was because it's your fears. It's all of the fears that you've been holding in that are keeping you from stepping into your purpose, to your soul's purpose, to this beautiful world. And it's something that we have to face, and it is a little scary. And I think that's why in shamanism they have this archetype of a jaguar, because the jaguar is an awesome creature that can see in the dark and can help you. And it is, for me, that was my biggest journey. That was to face my fears and to realize that they are not the enemy, that our fears are things that are asking to be healed. Our fears are things that are asking to be uncovered and looked at with love and compassion and turned into gems. And that is the miracle that I found in shamanism and in this journey, was to realize that they are not anything to be afraid of. And that is something that we're so many people I talk to about this is like, well, why on earth would I want to go inside myself? Like, thank you very much. It's fine in there.
I'm fine. That was
I'm fine.
yeah, right. Of course you are.
and yeah, and to realize that, and then when you can start, that's like, it's this natural progression that happens, is when you start to come and face those fears, and you start seeing this person, this healed, beautiful, radiant human that you actually already are. You just don't know it because you've covered yourself up with not you haven't covered, but the world has covered you up with all of these fears. You start to come into the hummingbird medicine and the eagle condor medicine, which is, this soul's purpose. You'll start to feel, like we were saying, you start to get to know your soul again. And you get to know your soul again. Your soul has a mission for you. You may not know what it is yet, but it has a mission for you. And when you can start to find it again, it will start taking you to that world of happiness and prosperity. Because if you're just living in fear, you will always stay in fear. And if we can start working towards that beautiful place, I think everyone would be like, yes, AYNI, we can do it. Sounds good. Yeah.
Wise words. Well, I mean, yeah, I won't give everything away that's in the book, but there's some brilliant breathing practices as well. You encourage, well, what shaman wouldn't, but you encourage fire ceremonies, and I certainly found fire ceremonies as a big transformer. A big way, a big opportunity for me to deal with some of my stuff, because I've certainly grown up in the UK. I think you Americans are a little bit more open about your emotions, but I was always told to just shut it down, block it, and if I did anything, it might be talking with somebody, when you actually hit rock bottom. But that was difficult for an young English boy. But the fires I just found so liberating, because I didn't even have to talk about it. I could just blow it into a stick or write on a piece of paper, put it into the fire, and just watch that transformation from the physical into the energetic. And it's not just about the stick and the piece of paper. It's like I'd feel that release. And we've sat by the fire for millions of years, and yet we've seemed to have forgotten why we do it. We just do it now to burn a bit of excess stuff from our garden, but actually the fire is so powerful, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, and I think that's it's what I love about it. Like, yes, Americans, we love to go to therapy, and we love to talk about our feelings. People will go to therapy for years and they don't actually get any better. They're just going to, honestly, it feels sometimes like we're just giving more energy to our fears instead of actually releasing our fears. At least that's been my experience of how I've seen that play out. And the fire ceremonies, you don't have to, Peter, you've probably done plenty of healing sessions, and I learned this in my training. It's like, when they come, you're not there to do a therapy session, like 5 minutes, that's it. Like, if they want to keep talking about their problems, like, kind of shut it down, because it's not to not validate their problems, but the purpose is to not keep giving energy to all of those feelings, rather to just acknowledge them, understand how they had an impact on us, and release them. And that was what I learned in all of my yoga practices too, is that they are part of us. The feelings that we feel are part of us, the actions, but they're just a piece. And any person that is balanced can't just let one part of them drive the force. And so I think sometimes in America, we actually let our feelings drive us a little bit more than we should. And then at the other side, we repress them. So we're just on a pendulum. We go one way or the other, but we're not in that balanced place where we're acknowledging them, giving them voice, and then saying, but are they serving us? And if not, yeah, let's give them to the fire. Just throw them in there.
Yeah. Not to mention, it's great fun having a fire as well. You
I
know, I mean, wow! My rediscovery of the fire was so incredible to sing and dance at the fire and feel the heat of the flames and
Oh yeah.
touching the earth. You know, just incredible.
Doing full moon fire ceremonies once a month. It's just
Wow.
I feel reconnected with the earth in a way that I never have before, and I think in a way that most of us have forgotten. And there's nothing. It's not
Yeah.
anything crazy. It's just like you feel the moon cycles, you feel the earth cycles. You're just feeling a part of what we used to all feel. You know, we used to be like the birds who knew where north was and just kind of understood. And now we're just so we have such blinders on. We don't feel the fire. We don't connect in with all the elements that are actually all a part of us already.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beat of the drum as well. You know, I
Yeah.
remember my first shamanic fire, and I was just hooked from the moment that drum started beating, and I didn't just feel it or hear it. I felt it in my heart. It's like boom, boom, boom. You know, and you could almost see the jaguar just outside the fire, just pacing around, and everything came alive. Anyway, I'll stop romanticizing about these fires. Yeah, and just back to what you said about Americans, I think the issue often is when we talk about something, we can get stuck in a loop, and that's the beauty of the medicine wheel, isn't it? Like the South is about dissolving the trauma at an energetic level, and taking the physical to an energetic, and the West is about releasing, and you know, whether it's putting stuff in the fire or making peace with death or whatever it might be. It's making peace with that part of you that's always run away and actually running toward instead of away. And but it's only when we've been through these two directions that we can really let the party start. Because once you've cleared all that, you step into the north, and the north is about transcending fate and stepping into destiny and finding that hummingbird inside you that's really what allows your soul to connect with the sweet nectar of life. And
Yeah.
it was like poetry the way you wrote about it. And thank you for bringing this medicine and reminding so many people about their beauty and that they can find love again, and it begins with working on themselves.
Yeah, there's so much possibility. There's infinite possibility out there for us to develop. And as you know, Peter, as you go around the wheel and you unpeel one layer of your onion, you're going to probably have another layer that'll come up and another layer. But every time we do, every piece that we let go and put into the fire or release, or every piece of our soul that we reconnect with, we're getting that much closer to the source, and we're getting that much more connected. And it is a journey well traveled.
It is. The amazing thing is, sometimes we can even get obsessed with the journey, can't we? And the nice thing about that eagle condor energy is that we realize that perhaps, although we've been on this like epic unpeeling of the onion or this epic journey, maybe there was no journey to go on at all. Maybe it actually always existed inside us. It's just that we had to, peel back the layers a little bit more than we thought.
That's some good wisdom there. It is. It's all there. And that ego is such a heart. You can't put words to that concept.
No, it's the I am, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's there.
And you can't really. Well, this is at least my experience. Although, you talk about maybe there wasn't a journey, but when I finally got to my eagle, I realized that I needed to go on that journey to be able to even think in that eagle way, to get that perspective above the mountains I only dare to dream of, or perhaps to the mountains that I didn't even know existed. They weren't even in my dreams. I did need to go on that journey first to deal with my Catholic education, all my Englishness, all the stuff that I locked away deep inside me for many years and never dared to share with anybody. And yet that moment that you just open up about it. And I agree, Doug.
She really wants to be a part of this podcast.
Wow, she's definitely a shaman.
Yeah.
A shaman.
She is. She is so cute. I'll sit here in meditation and she just like settles in and cuddles in next to me. It's absolutely adorable.
Do we get to see her? Or?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think she deserves her moment. She should be part of the medicine wheel, really. We need to add a dog. I guess the dog's slightly west direction.
Oh, here's. Hey, bud. Oh, okay. They just wanted.
Oh, I think we've lost. I think we've just lost Erin momentarily there when she was trying to get her dog on camera. So apologies for that. I'm sure she's going to reappear any moment. But anyway, this is Erin's book. AYNI, Find Love, Balance and Harmony for Ourselves and for the World. And as you've probably seen, she is the purest soul you could ever imagine. And she is someone who has not just talked about shamanic practice, she's also talked about how her yoga practices have changed her life. And she's combined the two to make this book. And I don't think anyone's ever done it quite like that before. She's back. She's back. Erin?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. It was obviously meant to be. Maybe we weren't meant to see your dog, but are we going to get the chance, or is it just too risky? Go on.
No, they're out. They didn't want to come in. They want me to let them outside so they can bark at things. So that's their real purpose today.
Well, I'll interview her in series 2. What's her name?
Come here, Kaya. Come here.
Oh, there she is. Hello. Oh my goodness, you're beautiful. Is it you are a jaguar? The canine version.
There.
Wow. Well, I just wanted to. I know we're a little bit limited on time, but wanted to talk a little bit about the yoga side. And I know you've intertwined the shamanic and the yogic. So do you want to just talk about a little bit how the two have merged and kind of what wisdom you've brought from the yoga?
Yeah, I think that it was this concept, it's this idea of both and the yoga has been a part of my life for many years. And as I started to go down this path, it was like I honestly couldn't really separate the two. I mean, I don't do the same techniques at the same time, but they are sharing the same message. The tantric yoga, which is it has a much bigger meaning than I think a lot of people associate to it. It's this idea that we are wherever we are on our journey, and that there are teachings, techniques, and practices to help us wherever we are. If we're just starting and can barely touch our toes, there are practices to help you limber up. If you have been doing yoga for a long time and you're ready to, start to feel that connection with the universe, there are meditations to help you with that. And it helped me. And as I started going deeper in the shamanic stuff, I also started going deeper in the yoga. It's almost as if it was just meant to be. And so the teachings that they've kind of came together on their own, where I was really learning that the path of disciplined path of yoga is completely in alignment. It's a path of service. It's a path of love. It's a path of giving. And that's exactly AYNI as well. So I couldn't really not put the two together because they're integrated in my life. And I hope actually that by putting those two things together, I mean, I could have, like you're saying, you grew up in a Catholic household. I grew up in a very Christian household. I could have like brought in a whole bunch of, you know, New Testament stuff, and it would have fit too, actually, because the idea is that all of these mystics and wise people of the world have the same teachings, and they're all about love.
Oh yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. I tell you, I think that's my biggest learning as well. Is that when people say, I'm reluctant to use the word shaman or whatever it is now, because any kind of attachment to anything perhaps isolates you or puts you away from something else, and that is what I've found. Every single practice I've done, whether it's shamanism, whether it's yoga, whether it's astrology, because that gets forgotten. But wow, I think astrology plays a huge part in creating the map for us. So and allowing us to get to know ourselves. But even I started doing the gene keys that Richard Rudd has incredibly done, and the I Ching, all this. I'm like, hold on, I've seen this before somewhere. Where did and I realized that it is all the same, and it's just a different road that a different person has traveled to get to the same place. And well, I think you sum it up in your book, really. But these are the two roads that have really brought you to AYNI and to peace. And wow, thank you for thank you for doing it. And I say that on behalf of anyone who's watching, on behalf of Joyce, your mum as well. Like, I'm sure that somewhere, maybe on a mountain in heaven somewhere, which has been named after her, or not, um, she's probably having a bit of a laugh and saying, "Wow, I knew that naming that mountain after me was going to have this impact on her life." And perhaps the biggest mountain has been, you overcoming all these things that you went through in your life, including the death of Joyce, and becoming this incredible soul who is touching so many people with what you do, that sits here so purely and so openly and so vulnerably to 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 to, to change the world, and with nothing else doing. And I'm sure you've designed some incredible buildings in your life as an architect, but I can tell you what, this is the one with the most solid foundations, even though it's officially invisible.
Mm-hmm.
So well done, Erin. I'm so proud of you, as your brother, teacher, whatever. Nothing, no attachment, zero attachment. Stop getting so attached.
I know, I hate all those labels, as we went through the medicine wheel and we had to take all the labels and put them into the fire. I've never been able to put them back on. And as you write a book and you have to write your bio and you have to say who you are and why you're qualified to write this and why people should listen to you. And you're like, I'm just me. I'm just me. And maybe that's our best qualification after all, is that we're just people just trying our best.
Yeah. And we don't even need to try, That's the crazy thing about it, right? We think we do. We're told we should, but the truth is that being rather than trying is a better thing. But it's not easy to just be when you're a kid growing up at school, right?
Very true. Very true.
I wanted to finish by asking you, like, where can people buy this book? How can they connect with you? Because I think there'll be a lot of people who've watched it and they're like, right, okay, so come on, where am I going to buy this book? So where can we buy AYNI? Can we buy AYNI?
Yes, you can buy AYNI. It's right now it's exclusive to Amazon, which I'll open it up after the end of May. I'll start spreading it out further, but it's on Amazon.com, so you can buy it. I have it in ebook, paperback, and I also just finished recording the audio file, so it's available on audiobook. So and I did that because I wanted to, the practices that Peter mentioned in the book, I wanted to be able to share those in my voice, because people have told me I have a soothing voice.
Oh, you do.
So, I do some nice breathing practices in the audio version. So if you get Audible, and I think it's on iTunes, maybe. And so that's that. But I also, if you want to learn about the other books that I'm working on, because I'm writing a book for my niece and nephew, who are 7 and 10, and you could go to my website, which is bladeofgrasshealingarts.com. Also inspired by the Walt Whitman poem, I believe a leaf of grass is no less than the journey work of the stars. And so, yeah, that's my website. And I have a little
Thank
office
you,
space
Erin.
there. Yeah.
I love the name of your website as well. Is there anything else that you want to share before we disappear and before I unfortunately go pick my children up from school?
Yes, you should. They're important. And no, I want to learn more about YouTube, and I'm going to figure out how Peter does these things, and maybe I'll start doing some things on YouTube and get a channel going. And I'd love to share some maybe yoga practices. So look for my name and check out my website, and maybe sign up for my mailing list. And if you like the book, I would love to hear from you. I would love to connect with people and build community. That's my biggest send off.
Well, I hear any book with a hummingbird on it is always going to do all right for itself.
100%. I agree, Peter. Yeah, and read Peter's book. It's great.
I wrote a book for children about a hummingbird called The Bird of Destiny, just so in case you're wondering what I'm talking to. I tell you what I wanted to do just before we finish. When I read your book, I get these little downloading moments, and I got given a little insight into the advent of AYNI. And if you don't mind, Erin, because this is your space really, but I was just going to read that download that I got as a poem. If I can do it, if I can hold it together.
I would love for you to. That is that is a good poem. That is a good poem.
Well, I don't really take credit for it. In fact, I don't take credit for any poems that I write because they just seem to come through me. And so I guess it's, well, my astrologer told me it was something to do with a connection that I've got. So I'm gonna read that, and it's called The Advent of AYNI. And thank you, Erin, for allowing me to bring this through by writing this book, because it would not have come if you hadn't have asked me to write the foreword. And so it might give people a bit of an understanding about AYNI, and maybe it summarizes why you should read Erin's book. So this is The Advent of AYNI. The Great Mother took one step back. She saw the earth from space for the first time since her creation was complete. She placed the planet a perfect distance from Grandfather Sun. This sphere of blue and green was pure beauty. Her waters glistened gold in the tender rays of the sunlight. She's almost perfect, thought the Great Mother of her daughter. I name her Pachamama. But there was still one thing missing from this great Eden. So the Great Mother took a deep intake of breath and blew the final sacred ingredient upon Pachamama. The universe felt a force like never before. What is this warm and sacred gift which you have blessed me with, Great Mother? Smiled Pachamama. Daughter, you have been blessed with the force of AYNI, said the Great Mother. She will bring you balance and harmony. One day, millions of years from now, your caretakers will lose their way and try to leave your garden. They will forget how to love you and struggle to keep you alive. A unifying force called AYNI has been woven into your DNA. Books and poems will be written by wise souls. This deep feminine force will be activated. She will breathe life into all who walk gently upon you. She will be your saving grace. What is this AYNI you speak of? Asked Pachamama. It is the greatest hug of all from the cosmic mother, said the Great Mother, the revealing of the invisible strands of love which interconnect the universe. AYNI is the great illumination of the cosmos, the gentle whisper of the Great Spirit on the healing eastern wind to those who inhabit you. the joining of 24 billion hands, the intertwining of 12 billion hearts, an unwrapping of peace, a quantum remembering of the mass consciousness, reconnecting every grain of stardust, recharging it with the God force. She's the healing sound of the heavens, the archangel of white light, unity, and community. She's the undiscovered coding which will save the human race. AYNI sees time like the ocean. Some will only see the chaos and the tick-tock of the waves, yet the deeper you go, the slower she flows. The more magnificent your appreciation of her stillness and her order. She is the tuning into your own heartbeat, the feeling into the rhythm of the universal river. AYNI is the silence in the thunder, the love of the mother. She is the glimpse of the world through the eyes of the great spirit's heart, the dissolving of war, pain, and destruction, the building of bridges, community, and pure love. She's the unburying of beauty. She's the secret work which has been done within you, the place in the soul where neither time nor space can touch. The bridge to a new destiny for Earthkind, a time before time, a space before space. She has returned, and she is here to stay.
Aho.
Aho. Thank you. Well, one last look at the book that you got to buy. If it's not too much light on my book, and there we go. AYNI, finding love, balance, and harmony for ourselves and for the world. Erin, it's been an absolute honor to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time and love and wisdom. And good luck with the book. I hope all goes well. I know it will. And if you need any help learning how to do things like this for YouTube, I'm more than happy to help you. Because it took me a while, but we got there in the end. Thank you so
Beautiful.
much.
Thank you, Peter. You have a wonderful day. Appreciate you.
Love to your family, and good luck on your next steps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Off to the kids.
Off to get the kids. Back to the reality. Back to a different kind of AYNI.
Yes, I'm thankful. My little Kaya was quiet for the.
Like, impeccably
quiet,
well
little
behaved.
girl. She was enraptured.
Well, I hope that was okay. I hope it was what you were looking for and what you wanted, and it was more of a flower than a list of questions. I think it's better that way, to be honest.
No, I mean, did it feel right to you? It felt right to me.
Yeah, it felt great. It felt really
Never done
good.
one before, so I don't have a basis, but it seemed perfect.
Well, it's the first of many, I'm sure. But but if it helps you, I don't know what the best thing to do. I mean, I'll put it on my YouTube. I'm not sure how big it is, but perhaps I can download it and send it to you, or I can put it somewhere, or I can give you my credentials and you can download it. Whatever you want, whatever's easiest. Maybe that's the easiest way.
We'll figure something out.
Great.
But you should go get your kids, and then we'll sort out that logistics stuff.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, thank you.
Yep, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.